All right, 2016 Porsche Cayenne. Cayman or Cayenne? I don't know how to pronounce this crap. Cayman Porsche S. There you go. It's the GT4, 2016. Anyways, we're doing all new ignition coils and oil change. It had a misfire in one of its coils. So to get the coils out, you have to remove the exhaust. And you'll have access to the coils. And I'll show you one of these spark plugs over here on the table. So these are the spark plugs that comes in it. It's a Bosch. I'm trying to get a number if this camera will focus, but OEM number. Can't get it, but whatever. It's a 4-prong Bosch style OEM plug. And then you have your OEM Beru, however you pronounce that, ignition coils. So we're going to be replacing all of those. Plus, we're going to be replacing air filters. And I'm trying to one hand over this so I can show it to you. There you are. Okay, so there you are. I don't know why this camera's not focusing. Forgive this iPhone 13. So there's your air filter, and we're going to be replacing both of those, plus the coils, plus the spark plugs. Here's everything you have to remove. You remove the back wheels, you remove the heat shields, you remove the exhaust manifolds, and then you have access to remove the coils. It's been raining. I was doing this earlier while it was raining. I was under the car, so I wasn't getting wet, but my feet were getting a little wet. Here's your Mali, however you want to pronounce that. I suck at pronouncing all this German crap. Your part number is going to be that, OX366D. And it is just a cartridge filter. So there's your male filter. Here's your Bosch spark plugs. And where's the part number on this guy? Come on, camera. That's a long part number there, but FGR5NQE04. So that is your spark plugs. I'll take one out the box just for the sake of saying I showed it to you. The OEM ones were green, these are blue, but it's pretty much the same plug. So we'll be dropping these in there. And then we have our 6 coils from Borg Warner, Beru, and it's pretty much same coils. So we'll be replacing all those. And then last but not least, in this one we're going to be running AMSOIL's European blend 5W40 black label. So yeah, this is what they want in there. Porsche, if you can see that there, Porsche A40. And it takes 8 quarts, 7 and something, I think. We got 8, but that's what we're replacing on it. In order to access everything here, There's quite a few panels you have to remove. This is our engine cover. I'll get it out the way so you can see. None of this has ever been removed before. And here's your little Porsche decal, which obviously I'm letting you read upside down. Forgive me. I don't have a camera guy to hold and do all this, so you're just gonna have to forgive the film quality. I'm not a filmer, I'm not a professional filming guy, I'm a YouTube guy. I mean, I'm a mechanic guy, not a YouTube guy, is what I intended to say. But here you go, 3.4, and that's pretty much what you need to see there. 2016 3.4. Engine cover has all these gosh, this camera will not focus. Has all these screws, and then you also have to get this carpeting off. You have to get this plastic cover off. You have to pop these seatbelt things off. When you pop those off, you'll see the screws that go there, which are little Allen hex screws. So that bar runs over the top there, and you'll pop these covers off here. They just snap them off. Don't be scared. Snap them off. They just got little clips holding it. It's nothing amazing. No screws. So you pop those off. You'll see the screws there. On the other side, the same thing. The bar lifts off. And then you take this plastic off. Again, it's just plastic clips. Do not be afraid to just lift and pop up on it. You have another decal of some sort here from Porsche, and the whole point of taking that off is to get to the air filters. Now if you look through here on this car, up top is where the engine breathes in air, and down bottom it's got some kind of a cooling fan, and that's why that air duct there is split off in between a top and a bottom. And I thought that I could take this off and have some sort of an access to that air box. Don't waste your time doing that. I put it back. There's a metal plate behind there. You're not gonna have access to anything. It's pointless to do that. I'm gonna show you back up in here. So as you can see, I didn't have to take any of this off. To get the engine cover off, these are the screws. What do we got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 12 screws there. And this, I just kind of lift it up like that, pull the carpet out from under it. When you're done, tuck the carpet back in, lay it down. You know, put your aluminum cover, tuck the carpet in, lay it down, and then put your plastic piece in your bar, and you're done. But anyways, this is your coolant fill point. This is your engine oil fill. This car is actually low on coolant, I was noticing. For those of you that don't know how to check it without taking this cover off, see that little orange peg, how it's down at the minimum? When the coolant is filled to the appropriate level, it'll flow up to the maximum part right there. So it's down at its minimum. And this is where he would fill it. He's clearly not been paying attention to that. This is the actual coolant overflow reservoir. And for those of you wondering what coolant goes in here, similar to General Motors stuff, it's orange. Yeah, Yeah, it's like an orange. Like Dex Cool almost. Well, I know it's not Dex Cool, but it has the same coloring. And so, that being said, why did we take the engine cover off? Well, number one, it's never been off. We wanted to get a good look and see what's going on up under here. Those of you that wondered, you can fill here, but there is no oil dipstick. If that's what you were thinking you were gonna find here, no oil dipstick, no transmission dipstick. These are all filled. You get your oil level from the dash instrument panel. You can add oil here, but you can't, which you would add through there, obviously, but you can't. You don't have a manual dipstick. I don't know why they don't put a manual dipstick. Like, I have nothing against them having it on the instrument panel, but electronics fail. And why can't you have a dipstick for us somewhere back here, Porsche? And you can manually check your dipstick and see if it concurs with what the dash is saying, right? For those of us that are handy enough to take all this apart, we would appreciate a dipstick. Porsche, you buy a 90K Porsche and can't get a dipstick. You get that in a Kia, for crying out loud. But that's my rant on that. Anyways, I'm gonna move on back to the air filter. Stay on topic. Damn, this has never been off ever. It's dusty, crusty in here. I would hate to be the guy that has to replace that serpentine belt. I'm not volunteering to do it right now, and it doesn't even look like it needs to be done, so we'll let it be. That alternator at some point is going to need to be done. Doesn't look like a whole lot of fun from here either. To get to the alternator, you got to do the serpentine belt. I'm thinking from the bottom there's a little more access. We'll go down under there and look. As far as serpentine belt tensioner goes, that's an idler pulley right there. I imagine the tensioner to remove the belt is on the bottom, but they leave you very little real estate in here. See, like that pulley, I don't know how well y'all can see, that pulley is like almost right up against that mat, like not far from rubbing up against it. Like they crammed this little 3.4 in here pretty well. Okay, so here we are, back on topic. Air filter box, right? There's that fan I was showing you. There's the air filter box. So if you notice, the air filter box has another hex Allen style screw there. It's the only one I can visibly see. Maybe it's just a one screw and the rest are clips. I was trying to feel around. I didn't see any more. And if you come up here, you see it has these clips here. And so I'm guessing this sleeve comes off and then that comes out, and then there's the one air filter you would replace on this side of this harness. Would seem to be in the way. You would have to fish it out around this harness, and it's a pretty stiff, hard harness. I don't like yanking on them too much. That's how you end up with electrical problems. You can see the spark plugs from up here, but there's no way you would ever like have room to get them out from the top. In case you were wondering, I don't have to remove the exhaust, I can just do it from the top. No sir, not happening. The only way to do these spark plugs is from the top. Be careful what you lean on. There's a lot of sensitive plugs and like very fragile plastic nonsense going on at the top of the motor here. I'm gonna swap over to this side. See, look, I just almost put my elbow on this guy. And that's all it takes, and stuff is brittle. So you gotta be really alert to where you're leaning on and what you're doing. Anyways, this is your coolant overflow. Just a second ago, you saw me pop the lid off. And if you look here, you have some kind of a purge vent system, right? Some kind of a purge valve, probably a diaphragm in there, check valve of some sort. And you have some kind of ventilation happening there. And look, you got a plastic clip here, plastic clip here, plastic clip here. And then this is in the way of getting to the other air box, if I can even get the camera to show you. There's that other screw down there next to that fan to get to the other air filter. So to get to that, you have to disconnect all this. You have to take this coolant tank out of here. You would probably want to disconnect this and this to give yourself room in between here and here to get the tank up and out. And you have all other kind of stuff attached under here. See, this is your throttle body inlet. And the throttle body inlet, you would loosen this clamp, and then it's a split intake, and it sucks in air from both sides, right? So you would, to get this throttle boot out, it has another clamp. Let's see if the camera will get back here on each one. And there's the other one. And after you did all that, look, you got another plastic connector there for this overflow tank. I call it a puke tank, but the proper term is coolant overflow tank. And all these little plastic things are very fragile, and you gotta be real careful because everything's expensive, everything's a special order. And especially in Biden's America, good luck waiting to get all these parts. We had to special order everything and wait. But you got lower radiator hose going to the coolant overflow tank. You got breather, baffle breather for the intake. It's like a baffle. And all this has to come out just to get to that air filter back in there. And even with all this out, you're still working with that much room to get an arm, a hand in there, loosen that bolt back there, and get that air filter box out. Why Porsche did this like this, for the love of God? I mean, an air filter, people. You couldn't have, like, engineers, I'm telling you. You couldn't have designed something a little less complicated. Like, the R&R to do the air, those are the clips of this when I leaned on it, popping back in place. The R&R, removal and replace, right, of getting to this air box is reasonable. But for them to put the coolant overflow right there, that could have been relocated to the front and left that open, equally open there and here. I'm no engineer, right? I didn't graduate Harvard with an engineering degree. I understand I'm just a mechanic, but you already have coolant lines and a radiator running through the front, running to the front of the car. There's a radiator in the front. The hoses, I'll show them to you when I lay underneath. They run down yonder all the way to the front of the car. That's where the cooling is happening. There's no radiator back here, in case you haven't noticed. So if the radiator's already in the front and you already ran hoses and lines that way, why not go ahead and run a few more hoses for the overflow tank? And that would leave this a little more open to do air filter preventative maintenance a little more reasonably. But now you can't do it reasonably. You have to struggle a little bit here and cross the desert over here without a sip of water. That's what it's going to feel like, removing that overflow tank to get to the other air filter. So I am politely going to pass. There's too much liability in removing all those clips, and things break, you know. Let them take that to Porsche and see what they charge them to replace that air filter. I will save him a nice chunk of change on the other stuff, oil change and coils and spark plugs and all that. You know what? I'll probably replace just this one side, and that side can stay put. Because it is what it is, my man. I am not doing it. I am not doing it. I am not removing that coolant overflow system in-house. This stuff has never been cracked open. The car's 6 years old. 6 years of heat, of sporty driving, and all that is brittle. And you go to touch it and it breaks. And see, and when they do it at Porsche, they can run back in the parts department and say, give me another clip. We're working on this customer's car and one of the clips broke. And it's no sweat off of the technician's eyebrow there. He's getting paid flat rate to be an employee for Ford. He's got his 401k matched. He's got overtime when he works at. He's a W-2 name patch Porsche employee, right? So let him take that liability, not me. Now, if this was my own personal car, I might tackle it. Honestly, if I owned this, I would probably run my own lines and put my own aftermarket overflow tank to the front of the car and never have to deal with that again and just eliminate that altogether. And I'd probably make sure I put some K&N drop-in air filters in there to where I don't have to mess with them for a long time. But I wouldn't buy this car just because I don't like working on them. I'm doing it for a friend. He's a young kid. I didn't want him to get taken advantage of at the dealership, so I volunteered, right? He's pretty much my neighbor. But anyways, I normally don't even like working on these. But that's what it takes for anyone watching to take all this apart and even have access to your engine. And this is what you're going to be staring at. You will be able to have access to your overflow tank. And you will have access to an alternator. I don't really see any other reason why you would open this up back here unless you had some kind of a vacuum leak and you wanted to smoke test it and make sure none of these lines are leaking, or you later down the road this car will have those problems. It'll have some kind of a vacuum leak failure or something, and somebody will need to get back here with a smoke tester and test it. It'll probably be when the alternator goes and they have to reach in there and shove their arm in there to get the belt and the alternator off and all that, and somebody will lean on something plastic and cause a vacuum leak, right? And put it back together and let somebody else deal with it. If you were doing valve covers, you would want, when the valve covers on this start leaking, you would want access to those bolts up top, from up top here too. If you wanted AC line work, you would get in here too. What else? You got starter you would do from the bottom, I think, but you might also want to get from the top. No, I think the starter on this is under the intake. I don't know. Some kind of a cooler under there. Who knows what else is under there? I haven't been lucky enough to remove the intake on one of these 2016s. At least I haven't had a chance, but whatever. I better watch what I say. Someday I might end up having to remove this intake. But anyways, I'm gonna jump down from here before I make this video painfully long, longer than it needs to be. And I'm going to show y'all. Sorry if the camera angle is messed up. I was climbing down, fixing the towel. Keep your shirt on, folks. From what I know, there ain't no other videos on YouTube on these cars. Okay, so I figure my poorly made video is better than no video. These are all your nuts that hold that skid plate, that shield, whatever you want to call it. There's another one that's carpeted and it goes behind it. And then those are your manifold gaskets. So these, all the bolts hold that. They hold those stability bars there. There's one on both sides. I had to take down to get the catalytic converters out. The top of the catalytic converters have these little dinky ass 13 millimeter rusty crusty bolts on a 2016 Porsche, and I had to put penetration fluid on that. We got some plastic 10 mils that went on that carpeted cover thing over there, and these little small hex screws held that too. These big nuts held that bar I just showed you, that stability bar. And then these little guys right here. There's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Those bolt the ignition coils in. And these that have this longer style stuff here are the bolts for the exhaust manifold. And then I'll put this one next to it. You see how this one's short and that has that length? That's because this one goes to that hanger thing right there, and the rest go on the manifold itself. And all of these bolts fit this socket. And it's a special socket. I'll show it to you over here. And so E12 is what it's called. And the reason why it's special is because it's a 6-point, but it's not your everyday 6-point. It's like a reverse Allen type of 6-point for this to go into. Any other socket other than that, you're going to strip these out. So I got a little cobalt set that came with a 23-piece set here. And these are the ones you're going to be using for that. E12 is what you're going to need. And that is going to get all your exhaust bolts off. Now, I got some other hex style sockets for everything else that I just showed you. I was using my little baby ratchet on these, and the 2 sizes that I ran into that I'm using here is a T27 I'm using a lot, and I'm using a T30. So in between the T27 and the T30, it's all going down around here. I don't know why this is an iPhone 13 Max Pro, and I'm waiting for the 15 to come out because the 14 don't seem that special, and I don't think this 13 is either. But anyways, that T30 fits all of these, and it also fit most of the stuff underneath. So with a T30 and a T27, you're pretty much taking all those off everywhere around the car. And other than that, that E20 socket I showed you. What else? Oh, I'm yawning on y'all because I'm tired. The 13, the little crappy 13s that I was just making fun of, that go on the top of the catalytic converters here. They go right here. Those guys I got with this wobbler that I just dropped like an idiot. And I think that just fell up under the rim, and we're not going to try to fish that out on camera while we're recording, unless it's hiding under there. But you get the idea. It's a 13, and it's one of these wobbly guys. 13 like this. So the reason why you want that is because of your angles. You're gonna use a couple extensions, different sizes. This is the shortest size extension you can get, and has a little bit of wobble in the design, and you want that. And I got the normal short, and a shorty short. I was working a lot with that. Then I also got one size longer there. I was trying to use this, but it's too bulky to fit in there. And this socket was, I believe, a 16 mil. And that 16 mil was pretty much for all these nuts over here for the plate. So those are pretty much all your tools. I was using my Milwaukee Impact for some of it. Smaller Milwaukee for the rest of it. Obviously 1/2 inch with a 19mm socket for your wheels, lug nuts to come off. This wrench over here is a 7/8 wrench, and I use that to get the oxygen sensors cracked loose. They do make a special tool for oxygen sensors. If you're that fancy, go buy it. I had it at some point. I don't even know where it's at. Don't care to look for it. Right now, you want this type of extender because that little bit of wobble helps. You can always use one of these wobblers, but sometimes this is too much, and that's just all you need. I don't think I did use a 10mm on something. I forget what it was, but I used a 10mm on something, and this 3/8 I think I used. I don't think I used the 3/8. I think I thought I was going to use it, but I didn't. You're going to want a magnet tool to grab stuff that falls and pull spark plugs out. You're going to want an extension about that size with a 5/8 regular basic sockets, spark plug socket, and that on that size extension will get your spark plugs out. Plus the magnet tool will help you. So yeah, all that being said, let's put all this back so I don't lose nothing. Trying to show y'all stuff, helping y'all out, screwing myself up over here. And let me go underneath because I think I babbled enough about everything up top. I even dropped my 13 for y'all. Okay, so here we go. Everything underneath, all the covers are off. So it was raining earlier, so it's not super fun to be under here, but we're gonna go under. Down under. Okay. That's where it connects to the rest of your exhaust. I'm hitting something, the back of something here. These are your connectors for the ignition coils. This just pretty much bends back and shimmy, shimmy, shimmy off. These stay. You got 1, 2, 3 for that. You're gonna have O2 sensors hanging. Told you this was the 7/8 wrench. I just cracked them loose. I didn't unplug them all the way. I just kind of left them dangling out of the way. I took them up out of the way so I can work on my spark plugs without them hindering me. And there was another O2 sensor somewhere here. There you go. I tucked it up over here. And it'll just kind of dangle like that in front of your spark plug hole. And these twist, and I just twist to get them started. And then I put the wrench on them. I could follow it all the way up and unplug it from the top and remove all the little clip safety connectors, but I find all that unnecessary. I just leave it there. This is important that I explain to you. I'm changing the oil on this one in case you didn't know where the oil filter is on these Porsches. There you are. And this would be a good time to do that before I put the exhaust back on. So I'll probably do that and let it drain. Here's your exhaust ports. And if you look in there, you're starting to see a little bit of carbon buildup. Nothing to scare anyone yet, but you could start to see a little bit of... I've seen worse. Let's leave it at that. I don't like this plastic nonsense. Like, you pay $90K for a car. Why is there so much plastic? This should all be aluminum at the very least. They put these little bleeder valve. This is a coolant bypass pipe, and it should not, I repeat, be plastic. It should be metal, aluminum. You pay $90K for one of these cars, you should have metal, aluminum, not plastic. All in the name of save weight, right? But I call it cheesy. I know the camera angles are all over, but you're just gonna have to bear with me because I'm on jack stands in a driveway up under a Porsche. So here's your coolant hoses. And like I said, they run all the way up under this cover to the front where the radiator is. There's a lot of this is all your coolant stuff. I think that is, that's like your auxiliary water pump. One water pump isn't enough to keep everything flowing through here. So you have a few, I think you have one or two little electric water pumps. And then you have your main water pump, or they might all be electric for all I know. But here you have your two pipes here. Here's the serpentine belt I was talking to you about. And I don't see a tensioner down here. Oh, I see the tensioner. It's hiding up in there. Yeah, that little pulley you can barely see up in there. That's your tensioner. Looks like fun, right? No, thank you. I will pass on that. This is your water pump right here, and I'm probably too close to it to even give you a decent shot of it, but this is your water pump. And look at that. What's that? That's some kind of a water pump pulley, it looks like. I'm a little confused. You got a water pump here and an electric water pump there. And I don't see an AC compressor on the bottom. I'm thinking it's up top. Yeah, I can't see anything in here, guys. I'm trying to find the camera angle. There, I can get a little peeky. That's the bottom of the alternator, if you can barely see that. But yeah, doesn't look like fun. This is the other side. O2 sensors, spark plug holes. It's a pretty deep spark plug hole. Looks to be like a cam sensor. Yeah, I would, if I had to bet money, I'd say there's your cam sensor. One of them on each side. Your transmission mounts to the back of this motor. There's your CV axles. Like I said, a little bit of carbon, but nothing major. When I first laid under here, I thought I had to take this bolt and this bolt out when I was dropping the exhaust. And you'll see that they're very hard to get to with the exhaust there. And this is proof this bracket stays there. You only remove the one from over here and the exhaust will fall down. These two you do not remove, you leave them up there. So, coils, 1, 2, 3, spark plugs, 1, 2, 3. I'll stick this exhaust manifold back up here. And I will be done under here. This bolt is for that rod that comes across and bolts to all this nonsense. And there, and here, and over there, and the whole plate and everything. This is your transmission drain. And sometimes you fill it from the same drain, and this is your pan. And the filter on these is built into the pan. And let me see if I see a fill. Sometime, yep, there we go. That's probably your fill plug right here. So you would fill it from here. It would have to be up and level, running at a certain temp, and you would fill it through there, drain it from here, and drop the pan. Transmission service, there you go. But yeah, so if I had to do a valve cover gasket, which I don't see the need of doing just yet because no leak, see? But if I had to do, I can get all the bottom ones from here, removing the exhaust, and I can get a few from up top, removing the cover. And that would be your valve cover gasket. And I was looking inside the spark plug holes to see if I seen any oil leaking in. from your valve cover into your spark plug hole, and that was clean. I already showed you that one, that was clean. This one was clean. Because sometimes people will do spark plugs and not even pay attention to that, and then it's like you're getting oil in there. Of course you're gonna have a misfire. But if you see, this valve cover does not need to get done yet. It is still sealing for the spark plugs the way it should. I know I've already said this, but I just cannot get over how disappointing it is to see Porsche using so much plastic. Like, ugh, makes me want to vomit. And here's another shot of your air filter box from the bottom. Right? It has some kind of vent hole right there. I don't know if that's supposed to be there or not. What? I'm starting to think, is there access from the bottom to get that off without removing the coolant tank? I mean, that is the coolant tank right there with this little orange sensor there kind of in the way. And it looks like you still might be screwed because that's like wedged up against it. I mean, you can get to that screw from down here a little easier, but I don't see you even from the bottom being able to get that air filter box out of the way. And then under there would be the clips. This little bracket holds that coolant tank. If you look, it has another screw. Follow the bracket straight up. Has another screw there. So you'll remove that bracket to get the coolant tank out. So you kind of need to remove the exhaust to get to that bracket to get that coolant tank out, to get that air filter out. So ideally this would be a good time, But like I said, it's too much liability, too much plastic in the way. I'm not doing it. I'm just not getting paid enough. People don't want to pay you enough to take on the liability. And then when something breaks, it's like for whatever petty, little money they're paying you, they're like, well, it's your fault. You broke it. You were working on it. Right? You ain't even paying me enough to take on any blame here. But, take it to Porsche. Let them take the liability. That's what I say. I thought this had easy air filters. No, this air filter has nothing easy about it. Anyways, I could ramble some more, but I think we'll stop here. Next step is pull that oil filter cartridge off. Pull this oil drain plug right there. I think it's like a T50 regular Allen. And that is your oil pan, if this camera will give me the right angle. That is your oil pan, and there's your oil drain, and we'll let it get a good drain. And we'll start putting spark plugs and everything back in. I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to let the oil cartridge drain, but first I'm going to put spark plugs and ignition coils in it, and then I'm going to let it drain. And after it's done draining, then I'll put the exhaust manifolds back in it, and I'll be done. I will be done. Okay. So, air filters, you will either stay in the trunk until he takes you to Porsche, or you will get returned to the store and have money go back on his account. He did some kind of snazzy wrap. I thought it was a paint job. It's a wrap. Changes colors. Looks good if you ask me. I like it. I'm a fan. I approve. But yeah, that's it. He it changes color based on the lighting. But I think I've made this video long enough, 45 minutes. I doubt anybody will really watch it all the way through. I did a lot of yapping, but it gives you a visual of what has to be done to get the cover off. I already went through it, and I'm gonna make the video longer going through it again. And it gives you a visual with a pretty decent explanation of what it takes to do spark plugs and O2 sensors. No, sorry, ignition coils. And a little discussion about the oil and removing covers. Tools necessary. You don't need no super duper special tools. I'm sure Porsche has some super duper ridiculous tools just to make this job even easier, but with the average guy with the average tools with some good experience can get in here and do this. What would Porsche charge to do this? I'm guessing about $2,000 at least. I don't know, y'all tell me. I tried to call Porsche and get a quote from them on what they would charge, and they were talking about like, oh, we'll get back to you in a day, like email us, or like it was not easy. Like, if I was calling Honda, they'd give me a quote right away. Toyota, Kia, you name it. You call Porsche and it's like, they make things difficult. 90K car, shut up and give me a quote. You can't even do that. But supposed to be hearing back from them tomorrow on what kind of quote they would charge for this. But I'm guessing it's around the minimum 2K. He has about 600 in parts, everything I showed you. And then add labor, depends on where you go, right? Anyways, thanks for watching. 2016 Porsche Cayman, I don't know. I'll forever fumble that. But 3.4 V6, naturally aspirated, spark plugs, coils, oil change, and X-nay on the air filters. God bless y'all.